Welcome. What's up? If I've never met you, my name's Jason. Hello. Nobody else is singing up here, right? Jacob? Oh, this was you. My bad. Here. That's about right. No, I just got to see you. That's all I need. Cool. So I am the next gen pastor here. I get to hang out with Jake and Presley and the crew. It's a lot of fun. That's all you need to know about me. And I really love being here. Is that good? We good? So where's it, October 11th? Is that right? And you guys are what? What are you like? 3 months in? 2 months in? Are you surviving? Is anybody flunked out and you're going home? Good. Awesome. I wanted to start off just by, I know some of you don't know me, so I'll tell you a few things about me just so we can introduce ourselves to each other. That's what I'm looking for. Here's what I need you to know about me, okay? One, I'm going to tell you in just a minute of one of my greatest accomplishments as a dad. It's by God's grace. That's all it is, but I'll tell you about it in just a second. I am married to a beautiful girl named Brittany. We have 3 awesome kiddos. My oldest kid is 8 years old, and I have no idea how that happened. He's a total punk, but he's great. He's awesome. My youngest is 2 years old, and I have a 6-year-old in between. And I have some goals as a dad. So some of them are secret, and some of them are like really public, right? So some of my public goals are like, I want my kids to be God-fearing and all these things, and I have a few secret goals. One of my secret goals is I hope that my kids all play golf. So that's like I secretly like subliminally, don't shake your head. Don't you know me. No. I like subliminally whisper in their ears when they're sleeping. Like, you love golf, you know. That's one of the things. And from an early age, I really had a desire and a passion. Is I wanted my kids to absolutely love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's my 8-year-old. Miranda, that's Cam. That's my 8-year-old. He's not 8 right there. If y'all thought you were 8, y'all needed some help. But that's one of my goals is my wife, like, I don't know why, but she feels like it's too old. They've already seen like all the movies. Anybody see like the 1980s version movie of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Please tell me you have. Have you really? Isn't it good and embarrassing all in the same moment? Yeah, it's so good. I think Shredder is, you know who Shredder is? What's his name? Me neither. He's not alive anymore. That's okay. Will Smith. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil. You know Uncle Phil? That's who the Shredder was. Did you know that? That's the Shredder's voice. No, wait, maybe he's the Shredder's voice in a cartoon. Anyway, somewhere he's a Shredder, okay? Any of y'all don't know, do any of y'all not know who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are? Good. You're all godly men and women. This is great. So one of the things my mother-in-law did whenever Cameron was born is she got him this doll. It's the same one. This doll's about 8 years old. Action figure, sorry. This action figure right here is about 8 years old. And I did make one small failure, is his favorite was Raph. My favorite was Leo, but I failed a little bit, but I still got him to like the Ninja Turtles. Now that my son's 8, I know why. You know Raph, he's like the angry one? Yeah, my son's Raph. So that's okay. That's all right. So my son loved Raph, and man, when he got this thing, y'all ever remember when you were little? I don't really, but you remember like you had a blankie or you had a stuffed animal or anything like that. Do you really remember that? Do some of y'all remember that? Y'all are brilliant, really. Do you want to share with us what that was? That would be fun. A blanket? That's not fun. Give me something more fun. Excuse me? Only in Forestburg, Texas, you would have a reindeer. Like a real one? Oh, right. Well, you're from Forestburg. It could be. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like a snake, a rattlesnake. Oh, I'm from Forestburg. Graduated with 3 other people. So look, Raph was, y'all are a really tough crowd, guys. Look, I'm going to get there. I'm not scared of you at all. So, but listen, what was I talking about? Forestburg, what was I talking about? I wanted to hear what you have. Well, I don't really remember what I had, but my son had this. He really did. And we still have it today. And we have the other 3. We collected them all. But here's what was so just cute about my little guy is this thing was just a relief to him, right? It was a comfort to him. It was something that he found joy, comfort, rest in. And he had some trouble when he was little going to sleep, and so he would sleep with Raph. And when he would go down and he would be with Raph, it would kind of go like this a lot of times. I would go in and I would put him to bed, and as I would put him to bed, he would cry and he would get scared. And when he was real little, he could barely speak, and he would say, "Daddy, I'm scared. I'm is." That was my favorite. "I'm is. Are you scared? I'm is." Oh, man. And he would grab Raph, and I would hand him Raph, and he would just hold Raph. And in that moment, for just a second, like all of his burdens were just relieved in Raph. But then in a few minutes, Raph wasn't enough anymore. And he would put Raph down, and he would go, "Daddy, I'm scared. I'm is." And I would look at my sweet firstborn boy and go, "Oh, come here, dude." And I would reach in the crib. You're not supposed to do this, but Amy, I did it anyway. And I'd pick him up, and I'd hold him, and he would just snuggle into me. We'd sit down, and he'd fall fast asleep. Because, there was some point where Raph is who he turned to. He'd go and he'd cry, "I want Raph. I want Raph." And I'd give him Raph, but then after a while, Raph wasn't enough, and he'd say, "Daddy, I'm scared. I'm is." And he just wanted Daddy. And if I would pick him up and if I would sit with him, it was a few moments, and burdens were relieved, and he was asleep. And this is something that it's something we can all look to when we're little, but the truth is, you and I still have Raphs in our life. They're just not stuffed animals. But you and I have Raphs in our life. We have similar things that we look to relieve us of burdens. We do. You might have it in a relationship. And if life's bad, as long as she's there when you're done with the day and you can hang out, or he's there, then there's a relief in your burden. Or as long as you accomplish this or accomplish that or gain this or gain that. Or some of us, we might even turn to things like alcohol. You go, "Well, it's okay if I'm just buzzed, I think." And I would go, "Great, what's your motivation to go in there?" And we'd have a conversation, and I would ask you at some point, "Is that just your wrath?" That's just something you're looking to gain some comfort, some relief maybe from your burden. Or maybe for some of us, and there are a million things we could discover. For some of us, it's just harming ourselves. It's something we look to maybe to find relief from a burden. You might not say that before you do it. You might not say that before you drink. You might not say that before you go on a date. Is it wrong to go on a date? No. Unless you're using that person to be your wrath, then it might be. How would you like to call up your girlfriend? Girls, how would you like it if your dude called up and said, "Hey, I've had a really bad day. You're okay. Like, you're not bad, but I just really need you to comfort me tonight and relieve me tonight of this burden. Will you just come hang out with me?" I'm like, "Sure, I feel really loved and valued." No, you don't want to do that. So could it be wrong? Yeah, it could be bad. It could be something. And so there's a truth in us that when we're little, it's okay and it's laughable to have wrath and to have a comfort and to have something that we look to that the world gives us that offers a little bit of relief. But then when we get older, we still try and find the same thing in different things, the relief from a burden and things that only give it for a moment, if at all. So I have a question for you tonight that I just want you to consider as we move through this text. And I know it's silly, but for you today, tonight, I guarantee you, if you and I sat down for long enough, we'd find your wrath. As I was singing with you guys, I don't know, the second song or so, I went, "Oh my gosh, there's me." I thought I'm 40. I'm 40 years old. Can you believe that? If you've known me, I'm 40 years old. I'm almost dead. And so I'm 40 years old, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I still turn to things to relieve me of a burden." But there's a problem in that in us. You know what the problem is? The problem is none of it will satisfy. So if we can identify what our wrath is tonight, maybe we can then move forward and find true relief from burdens that life gives us, because life will give you burdens. If it hasn't already, it will, I promise. And you think they're bad now, I promise you they'll be worse. So what are you going to do? Are you going to turn to the things that you find joy or comfort in for just a moment to relieve you of those things? I don't think we can. Because I want to show you of a woman in John chapter 4, and I'm going to show you a perspective of this woman that may be a little different. Because if you're a church-going person, when I say John chapter 4, you go, woman at the well. When I say John chapter 4, you go, oh yeah, the Samaritan woman. And you might know it, and you go, Jesus has to go. Evangelism, absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. But I want to show you a different perspective to the Samaritan woman, to the woman at the well. Because you know why? If there are two characters in this story, Jesus will meet a woman at the well, a Samaritan. Which one are you more like? It's not Jesus. Truth is, you and I are more like the woman who looks to satisfy all of her burdens and find relief in the things of the world, no matter how immoral it makes her. So maybe tonight we see the woman at the well a little bit different. Not as simply a woman of a divine appointment, though that was what happened, but maybe a woman that's just like you and I. And I want to show you tonight that this woman has 3 burdens that she is looking to relieve or she is living in fear of. And I guarantee you they're burdens that you either have had, or will have. Most likely have or had. And will continue for the rest of your life. What if you had more in common with the woman at the well than anybody else in the book of John? Because tonight, I dare to say that you probably do. If you see her from a little different perspective. If you have your Bibles, go to John chapter 4, and this is where we jump in. Because whoever wrath is in your life, and whatever that means, that will never give you rest. The truth is, Jesus alone will give you rest and relieve you of burden. And this woman is going to learn that in just a little bit. And she's going to do something that's really crazy. And she's going to have a unique story because this woman is a lot like you and I. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 5, we kind of jump into the story, and he's just setting the scene of what's going on. I'll just kind of summarize it for you. Jesus is traveling. He's traveling about a 3-day journey. And in his travel, he has to pass through a certain area. It's called Samaria. It wasn't supposed to rhyme, but it did. And so he's passing through this land. This land, in 722, the Assyrians came, they conquered it, and they, Jerusalem, Israel, bang, bang, bam, bam, battle. And what they do is they try to breed out the Jewish people. Because what they did is they took about 80% of the Jews away, and about 20% they kept them there, and they tried to breed them out, literally. And the half-breed, what the Jews would call it, would be called a Samaritan. That's who these people are. Not only were they half-breeds, they were politically different and they were religiously different. They looked like a Jewish person, they acted like a Jewish person, but they were not a Jewish person. Matter of fact, they believed that the first 5 books of the Old Testament were it, and they believed in what they called the Tahib. It was going to be the second prophet after Moses. Moses was the last prophet, and the next one would be the Messiah. The next prophet to come would be the Messiah. And it would be the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, would be only things they believed. They also believed, because of that, the place of worship was not the temple in Jerusalem, but it was on a place called Mount Gerizim. And so this woman is this person despised by Jews, so much so that they would not travel unless they had to, or if they did, they would just kind of put blinders on through this area, but they would actually go different ways. It would be like if if we were in college, my nephew just started at Texas A&M, and if we were there and you started talking about the city of Austin, right? My nephew would cringe. Yeah, your mama's an Aggie. My nephew would cringe. He does not like Austin. Why? Because he's an Aggie. What'd they ever do to you? I don't know. They're Longhorns. It just doesn't go right. Now, if you go to UNT, the analogy doesn't work, right? Like what? I don't know. Do we have a rival? UNT? Do you have a rival? I'm a UNT grad. Do you know what? Do you know if UNT has a rival? Well, who is it? I know. I know who it is. You don't even know. See, the illustration doesn't work. I got booed speaking one time in Louisiana because I said I went to UNT and I got booed. And I was like, whoa, why are you booing? And they said they were as the city of Monroe. Who was it? I don't remember. Louisiana Tech. Ruston, thank you. It was in Ruston. They're the rivals of UNT. Did you know this? I didn't know that. But it would be like a Louisiana Tech person coming to Denton. It doesn't make sense, see? But it's just a place you didn't travel. It's a place you didn't go. It's people you didn't associate. And so here's the setting. Here's the scene. And so the story begins when Jesus, in verse 4, he says this. John says this of Jesus. that Jesus had to pass through Samaria. Now, don't skip over the forest for the trees. What I mean is, why did John write this? That Jesus had to pass through Samaria? No, he didn't. He didn't have to pass through Samaria. Number one, he could have taken two other routes. Number two, he's Jesus. He could have teleported. Like I just played this with my kids. What's the little black thing? Enderman? The Enderman? Is that who teleports? Yeah, Enderman. He killed me. I'm terrible at Minecraft. Number three, he could have had a legion of angels escort him around. But the Bible says he had to go. Do you know why Jesus had to go? Because he had to go relieve one immoral woman of all of her earthly burdens by introducing her to the Tahib, who she would think was a Tahib, to Christ, to the Messiah. He had to go. And here's where he goes, and the first thing he's going to do is you're going to see this woman has an extreme burden of relationship. Relationship. Here's what happens in verse 5. Verse 6, I guess it is. Verse 6. So he goes, and Jacob's well is there. He's in Samaria. He's passing through. He's tired from his journey. He was beside the well, and it's about the 6th hour. The 6th hour would be noon. And if you've heard this story before, what you've heard is probably true. No one comes to the well at noon consistently. Because if you come at noon, it's hot. It's not smart to come at noon. Because think about it. You got buckets of water that you're hauling back to the crib, and you got to get them all there. And so it's hot. Not only that, you're a little bit thirsty by noon, right? So you're probably going to go first thing in the morning, not when it's noon. But there's a woman that goes at noon. Most likely she goes because she is the social outcast. She has the scarlet letter. She is the woman of the town that everyone knows. She's the most immoral woman of an immoral people. She's the worst of the worst. So when the Samaritans think that this woman's immoral, we've got a pretty immoral woman. But Jesus had to go just to meet her. He had to go just to meet her. And here he's going in verse 6, and he says to this in verse 7, the woman from Samaria came to draw water. So here she comes, and here Jesus is. And who knows? I have no idea what the interaction was like initially. We do in just a second. But what did the woman think? Like, have you ever been in the middle of like some nasty sin? Yeah. Have you ever had nasty thoughts? Have you ever been in a nasty situation? What if all of a sudden in the middle of your nasty thought, in the middle of your nasty situation, you'd be so embarrassed if Mama walked in? What if Jesus did? What would you do? I'd run like a 7th grade girl screaming. That's what I'd do. What does this woman do? Here's Jesus. Here's a Jew. She doesn't really know who he is, but here's a Jewish guy, and here he comes, and she's going, I come here at noon so I don't have to see people like you, much less a man. Because you see, the relationship between men and women wasn't great back then. And so not only would a man ignore her and give her not the time of the day, a Jewish man's going to judge her, who knows what's going to happen. And here comes Jesus and this woman. And they're going to meet at the well. And then Jesus says some words to her. As she's drawing water, Jesus says to her, give me a drink. Do you get it? Jesus goes to the most immoral woman of the immoral people and says, give me a drink. Do you see the implications? Don't miss them. Jesus, first of all, this man speaks to the woman. He acknowledges her presence. Not only that, he says, give me a drink. We're going to learn later, the woman has a jar with her. What's Jesus going to drink out of? Her jar. You see, Jesus is asking the unclean, immoral of all immoral women to give him a drink from her jar. He initiates a relationship with this woman. He initiates one that's a little bit awkward. Because it was thought that if you were a Jew and you touched or, in this case, drank something unclean, you would become unclean. Little did she know she's speaking to the man who makes lepers clean and does not become unclean by touching or drinking after someone unclean. Little does she know she's speaking to the Messiah that's going to make you and I clean by satisfying the wrath of God on a cross. That he says, give me a drink. And she says, verse 8, the disciples are gone. That's why he's alone. In verse 9, she said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for me a drink? I'm a woman of Samaria. Even in the scriptures, it says, for no women of Samaria had dealings with the Jews. But he had to go to meet this woman, and he initiates her, and he says, give me a drink. Now, we're going to learn in just a minute why this is important. This woman has been divorced 5 times. The man she's with is her boyfriend. There is said to be an edict in Samaria that this woman could not marry anybody else because she's that bad. 5 men says, get out of here. 6th one says she has another husband or another boyfriend. Two commentators say this of the story. They say the most oft missed part of the woman at the well is not the fact that of her sin of adultery, but it's the fact of her desire of a relationship. Think about it. This isn't like, let the story come out on the page a little bit to you. Why do you think this woman has been married 5 times with another man? Could she be looking to relieve a relational burden that she can't quite satisfy? She can't quite get the feelings and whatever it is from the man that she wants. And you know, like, look back on your own life, because you and I are no different. Look back all the way to as far as you can think of in elementary school. When you're in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, whatever it was, man, it was so important that you just had that friend. The friend that would come over on Friday night, have a slumber party. And then that friend, hopefully in middle school, when you went to the most awkward years of your life, and you went to like a dance in middle school, worst idea ever. But if you had a friend to go with you, you were a little more confident, weren't you? If you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you were like king or queen of the world. And then in high school, your friends kind of grow, and you start to find the woman and the man of your dreams, right? Did you guys ever, don't raise your hand, but you date the guy or the girl in high school you thought you were going to marry, and you did it? Yeah, it happens, I've heard. And then in college, you go, man, now I'm an adult now, which is true, and now like this is for real, and man, now is the time that I'll find this person to kind of relieve this burden. You don't say that, but then you find them, and then after college or during college, whatever, you actually get engaged. It's the most exciting time of your life for about a week. And then you're like, I'm so tired of this. If I hear about the wedding plans one more time, I'm going to die. And she goes, if you don't care about my wedding plans one more time, you're going to die. Word of advice, guys, real quick. I had some good advice. Whenever you're planning a wedding, always have an opinion about everything. Just make sure it's hers. Got me? Write that down? First amen I've gotten from you. So this, then this wedding comes and you get married. And when you get into marriage, you know what you're going to realize if you're not married yet? Your relational burden still isn't satisfied. But you see, this woman is going from a relationship to relieve a burden of relational void in her. And she says, then this God man, she doesn't know who he is yet. He says, hey, take a drink from me. She says, I don't think I will. I don't know. And then he says this. It's really interesting. He says, Jesus said to her, all he's asked for was a drink. And he said to her, if you knew the gift of God, that's the what. If you knew what I'm offering you, salvation, freedom, relief. If you knew what it was, here's the who, or who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you, what does he say? Living water. So he starts to expand here, and he starts to go out, and he says, I could give you so much more if you knew who I was and what I offered. Because all you're looking for is all this relationship and all these guys, and you're not finding it, are you? If you knew who I was and the relationship I offered you, you would say, you would give me a drink. You would say to me, come into my life. So Jesus is saying this, in other words to you, here's how I would say it to you. If you have not come to a place, Jesus here, he would say to you, you look for relational relief or relational fulfillment or whatever it is in all of these relationships. He says to you, if you knew who I was and what I offered you, you would come to me and find the ultimate divine relationship with the Father. And then all of a sudden, you wouldn't look for a husband anymore, woman. You would, like, not that husbands are bad, but for this woman, you wouldn't find relational health, relational desire in this husband, but you would just find fulfillment in relationship with God. And so there's verse 10, at the end of verse 10, living water. So she still doesn't get it. She still doesn't get the fact that it's not about a husband or a relationship that will relieve this burden. It's about drinking the living water from the Messiah. I'll be honest, some of you don't get it. And sometimes I don't get it. So here's where you don't get it. And I don't mean to be harsh, but I'm going a little bit off script. What I mean is, I'm not taking you through the technical John 4. You see that? Let me pause for just a minute. Just in case I wasn't clear. I'm not taking you through the 6 steps of evangelism, John 4. They're great. They're in there. But that's from Jesus' perspective. I'm taking you through the off-script, nasty woman because I relate a little bit more to her. Maybe you don't. If you don't, I need you to, make me holy. But if you do, let me tell you something. She didn't get it, and a lot of you don't either. Can I just tell you that when you do find the husband in college or the wife in college or whatever you're at, your trade school or your profession, whatever you're doing, can I just tell you something? Life gets harder, not easier. And can I just tell you something? That your marriage will be great and will be challenging, but more challenging a lot of times than great. And can I just tell you that when you have kids, it is the most exhaustive joy that will make you want to jump off of a bridge, not really, of your life. One comedian said, raising kids is like you're drowning and somebody throws you a baby. Another one says it's like running an insane asylum and life gets so hard. And then you got to pay for stuff. So if you're looking for a relief relationally in a person, let me save you the heartache now and say it's the most difficult thing you will do in life is be a great husband and be a great wife. You know why? Because 2 sinners will join together, live in one roof, raise a family, and learn that their extreme selfishness is on display every minute of every day. So if you don't have a relationship with the Messiah, how's that one going to help you? It's not. Because maybe tonight you don't get it like she didn't. Come to me for living water and stop trying to find all this goodness and all this fun and all this stuff in that relationship with those husbands. Because how has that worked for you, woman? You've divorced 5 men, they've divorced you, and you're with another. The whole city has an edict that you can't marry. Why do you think her marriages are failing? Because she's looking for them to give her something they'll never give. Marriage doesn't exist for you. Marriage doesn't exist for your spouse either. I'll tell you another sermon for another day why it does. But this is what he's saying. He's saying, come to me, I have living water, I promise, here as we go. And so in verse 11, he's going to move on to what I call her physical burdens. This is what she desires. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw water with. The well is deep. Where are you going to get this living water? She doesn't get it. Hey, how are you going to give me living water? You don't even have a bucket, dude. I got a jar. You got nothing. You wanted to drink out of my jar, and you think you can give me living water? And he says to her, or she says to him, are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us this well. He dug this stuff. Are you better than Jacob? His sons, his livestock. Jesus said, well, let me tell you, everyone who drinks of this water, Jacob's well, yeah, it's great well, looks great. But let me tell you, everybody who drinks of this well, yeah, deep, yeah, that's a good one. Well, they'll be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water that I give will never thirst again. And the water that I give will become in him a spring welling up for eternal life. He turns a corner here. In the spring, this is the Holy Spirit, will come inside you. You will live in a way that you can't live outside of this wellspring in you, this Spirit in you. You will never thirst again. And then she's going to go and not get it again and say, sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty and I won't ever have to come back here and draw this water again. The genie's about to pop out, right? The lamp is there, and here comes the genie. And it's her saying, look, I never have to live in the humiliation of coming back to this well and seeing people in public again. I never have to, man, it's going to be so nice to not have to sweat and carry the jars. Give me the water that'll make me never thirst again. Give me the car. Give me the house. Give me the retirement. Give me the job. Give me the things of earth that will make me just a little bit more comfortable, because that will relieve my physical burdens. No, it won't. Do you want to know what some of the data is coming out after, as a next-gen staff, we're talking about this recently, post-COVID? You know some of the data coming out? Do you know that, like, the data of more depression, more anxiety, all that stuff? You've heard that, right? Do you know why? Do you know why? Because one of the things that COVID and all that stuff has lended itself to is that rest is go home, sleep, sit on the couch, whatever. Like, that's what rest is. And we've overworked ourselves and whatever, which might not be false, but that's what rest is. And so for some of us who have lost passion, maybe this is you, over COVID and over stuff like that, a lot of the data coming out now is simply saying this. There's a phrase in my head. Presley, I said this to y'all the other day. I can't remember it. You're not tired, you're just fatigued. So you're not, the data is that you're not tired and need to go sleep more. You're fatigued because physically, emotionally, and mentally, you're not applying yourself to anything great anymore because we've been, COVID has forced us to hide in a sense. In other words, the relief of a physical burden isn't go home and sleep and work from home and don't do this and just rest. That doesn't give you rest, does it? You know what does? Living for your divine purpose. That gives you energy. There's a difference in energy and rest. So he's saying to this woman, look, just because you won't have to come to the well, that won't relieve your physical burden. What I'm telling you to do is if you apply your life and give your life to something great, you'll find the greatest energy of all the universe in following me, that you won't grow weary. Do you believe that you can be relieved of these burdens when you go, I'm tired, my life doesn't have purpose, all these things? Man, rest, not having to carry a jar, isn't the answer. But giving ourselves wholly to Christ is. And there is energy and rest found there. It's kind of counterintuitive in a sense. But this is what he says. He says, where am I? Verse 12? Verse 13? Whoever drinks, I will never thirst again, will become the list. 15. The woman said to her, give me this water. 16. Then Jesus turns the corner. Because he's about to turn the corner into something different. But this is interesting, because the woman is asking the one person who can relieve her of all of her burdens to give her something she thinks can relieve her but can't. She's asking the right guy the wrong question. Maybe you've done this. Track with me just for a minute. Maybe you've done this. I have some friends that they would say it this way. Man, look, I love that you found the religion and stuff. These are my friends. I'm actually going to see them tomorrow, some of them. Man, I love that you found religion and stuff, but I tried the Jesus thing, and it didn't work for me. So let me translate what they're saying. Hey, I'm glad you found your genie, but I tried the Christianity genie, and it didn't help my life. Like, I still have bills to pay, and my kids are still poop heads. Like, it's still hard. Yeah, I tried the Jesus thing, but it just didn't work. Man, maybe that's you, that you said, yeah, I've tried those things. I tried to, do the church thing, but it just didn't quite help me. That's just like this woman saying, you can relieve me of my physical burden. You can make it to where I never have to come well. Give me a jar that never goes dry. And Jesus says, okay, she's not getting it. Let me turn the corner here. So here Jesus is, and he's saying, hey, here's water, I can do this. And then he goes, hey, woman, listen. Okay, she's still not getting it. Go call your husband. Go call him. And so then the story gets to where it's my favorite part, and where I want you to latch on to what he's about to say to her and never forget what Jesus does here. Watch. Jesus said to her, go call your husband and come here. And the woman answered him, I don't have a husband. I don't have a husband. It's not a lie, right? It's true. She doesn't have a husband. He says to her, you're right in saying you have no husband. For you've had 5 husbands, and the one you now have, he's not your husband. So, yeah, What you said, it's true. So here, there's a burden she has of relationships with others. That she goes to the well at noon because she's an immoral, adulterous, and woman who is hated by all. And Jesus says, hey, give me a drink. Start a relationship with me, a divine one, that you'll never have to draw water again. And by the way, you think you have a lot of burdens in life that physically, if you'll just like solve your physical problems, like your money problems, how many of you think that? If I can just solve my money problems, life will be good. No, it won't. No, it won't. It won't. Listen to me. Look right at me. Look right at me. It won't be better. So you think if your grade is better and you get the job and you graduate, it won't be any better. Now, don't go flunk out and say, well, it won't be any better if I don't. Don't do that. But it won't be better. And he goes, okay, woman, let me get to the root of this. Go get your husband. I don't have a husband. I know you don't. You got 5, and the one you're with, your boyfriend, and you're living with him because nobody will let you get married. And she goes, oh, her greatest need is now exposed. You see, she needed Jesus to relieve her of relational burdens, and he goes there, and she's still burdened. This is where Jeremiah says, blessed is a man, or cursed is a man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength. You're like a shrub in the desert, and you're going to die. But blessed is a man whose trust is the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. You're like a tree planted by a stream, and your roots go out into the river. So when drought comes, you don't worry. That's what Jesus tells her. And then he goes, physical stuff, it won't make you happy, lady, but I can fulfill you. Come drink from me. And she goes, I want the indoor plumbing. And he goes, nah, listen, go get your husband. I don't have him. And then here's her answer. Don't miss this. She says to him, verse 17, I think, sir, I perceive that you're a prophet. Why'd she say that? This homeboy knows her deepest, darkest sins. And they're disgusting, immoral, and hated by all. And he goes, I know your sin. This is Jesus walking in on you in the very moment. For a minute, just embarrass yourself. Just think of this. The most disgusting, embarrassing, sinful moment you can remember. Thought you've had. And Jesus walks in on that moment. And he goes, hey, get your husband. I don't have any. Yeah, no. I see you're a prophet. Now, in her belief system, who is the next prophet to come after Moses? The Tahib, the Messiah. There can't be just some other random prophet in her belief system, because the next one is going to be the Messiah. But she doesn't know what to say, so here's what she does. She turns it into a religious debate, because Jesus is about to relieve the last burden she has of spiritual burden. She has a great spiritual burden, and she turns it into a religious debate, because that's what people do, right? I perceive you're a prophet. And then this is my favorite part. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say Jerusalem is where we should worship. So our fathers worship in Mount Gerizim. You say Jerusalem. So she starts this religious debate. Y'all ever get that? When you're talking to your friends, I love it. It's my favorite thing. I had a plumber come to my house the other day, and he was talking to me about all this stuff. And he starts just like throwing F-bombs and this and all this stuff and drinking and all this. I'm just talking to him, whatever. And he goes, hey, man, what do you do? And I was like, I'm a pastor. And I wish I could say it because it's so much funny. He goes, oh, I said so many cuss words. I'm so sorry. It was so funny. That'd be funny if I could really say it, wouldn't it? Now that's funny. Thank you. Do you know what the words are? Maybe y'all don't know what the words are. He said, oh, never mind. And it was so funny. I was like, dude, I don't care. It's fine. It's fine. He goes, man, I've been to church. I've been to church, dude. Oh, I love church. What's your church? And I said, Denton Bible. He goes, oh, yeah, man, it's a great church. It's a great church. Where's it at? Mike is in Denton Bible. See Denton, the Denton part? Yeah, man, yeah. So you're the pastor there? I was like, no, I'm not. Yeah, I've heard you. No, you haven't. Like, no, dude. I'm like, stop giving me your Jesus jokes. Like, stop the debate. Well, when I grew up Church of Christ, what do y'all believe about? No, stop, dude. Stop being a theologian all of a sudden. Just be normal with me, dude. I like the cussing guy better than I like the debating religious guy, right? Can you just be that and fix my sink, right? And so he starts this religious debate. You ever see that? I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And that's what she does. She's starting this religious debate. Why would someone start a religious debate? Get really smart for a minute. Why would she do it? Why would Plumber do it? Because if they can take the conversation and distract off the root issue, which is their depravity, then they're going to feel a lot better about that. So we can debate something all day long. Don't you get into the sinful depths of my heart. So she starts to debate, and Jesus says this. He goes, Jesus said to her in 21, woman, believe me. The hour is coming when neither this mountain or that mountain will matter. He said, who cares which mountain you worship on? The hour of the passion is coming, the passion, the crucifixion of Jesus, that no one will care anymore. And you can worship wherever you are. It doesn't matter which mountain you're on. Stop debating me, woman. I asked you a question. I said, where's your husband? You see, he doesn't let her get away with it. He pulls it right back in. Because what if this God-man could go to the depth of her depravity, and what if he could let her know that he loved her even in that moment? What if he could say, look, lady, I'm on a 3-day journey that I could have gone around, but I came for you. Like, I came just for you. I came for one immoral woman in a land of immoral people to tell you that I can relieve you of every burden you think you have. That whatever wrath is in your life, I can relieve the burden for good. Because I'm creator, and I'm sustainer, and I'm the Alpha, and I'm the Omega. When I say I offer living water, I'm talking about something far greater than the jar you bring. Man, what would Jesus say to you about that now? And I'm not trying to be preachery. I'm trying to be normal. I'm trying not to be preachery tonight. Like, what would Jesus say to you? Like, hey, stop dodging the question. Stop skating around the depravity that's in you, believer. Yeah, you're supposed to be better, but you're not. I know you have 6 boyfriends along the way. Like, how would that change you in the moment if that Messiah came to you in that moment and said, I'm here for you right now to relieve all your burdens? What if relationships didn't guide you anymore? And your mood didn't change by how many friends went out with you or whether he or she texted you back or not? And what if the physical outcome of your life, how much money you had and cars you drive, what if they didn't really matter at all? What if they didn't change your view of yourself in the least? And what if spiritually? What if you served a God that said, your greatest deeds are filthiness before me? I need none of your goodness. What if that Messiah came to you, maybe tonight as a believer, to remind you, you're not as good as you think you are, but you're not as bad as you think you are either, because you live in the righteousness of Jesus. And what if this Messiah came to you tonight to say, you think you're bad? What about the most unfaithful, immoral woman of an immoral people? You think you're that bad? I bet you're not. And if you are, Jesus maybe comes tonight just for you, as he would here for her. Because he says this. The hour's coming, you worship, but the hour's coming and is now here. So Jesus says, look, the hour is coming and I am here, where you'll worship the Father in spirit and in truth. You ever been baffled by this verse? Spirit and truth. It's real simple. You'll worship the Father in genuineness. Let love be genuine, abhorring what is evil, holding fast to what is good. You'll worship the Spirit in heart, and you'll worship the Spirit in honesty. You won't worship him with just you won't worship God with a bunch of words and accolades and how you look. You'll worship God by a genuineness. My favorite thing, and Jacob, thank you for doing this earlier when you just asked us to pray, and I was like, oh, Jacob, don't ask me to do that. But I did. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't know about you guys, but I took you seriously and I did that. And man, what a relief for me to go, oh, it's okay that God knows the depths of my sin. If I told you what I was praying to him about, you'd all get up and leave. I'm not joking anymore. Man, to go, God, I have a lot more in common with that woman than I do that Savior. So he relieves this religious burden, and he's going to offer her the rest she's been looking for. He offers it to her in the last verses. 25. 25. The woman said to him, I know that the Messiah, the Tahib, I know the second Moses is coming. He who is called the Christ. And when he comes, he'll tell us all these things. In other words, all right, prophet, you're good. You know, somehow you know all about me, but I know the Messiah is coming. And when he comes, he'll tell us which mountain. He'll tell us all these things, and he'll do all these things. I think the coolest thing Jesus ever said, well, not ever. One of the coolest things is found in the next verse. So just so you have to know this, there's 7 I am statements in the book of John. I am is a word that comes from the word Yahweh, which is the covenant name of God given in the burning bush, Moses, all that. Moses says, who should I say sent me when I go and tell them, let my people go? He goes, you tell them, I'll be who I'll be. It's a good name, isn't it? If you're God. You tell them I am who I am. You tell them Yahweh, I am. That's how you translate it. Sent you. I am. So Jesus in John 7 times, he'll say, I am the way, the truth, and life. I am the door. I am the bread. He makes these divine statements that I am. In other words, Yahweh. I could go into that for a while, but Jesus claiming his divinity. And so, by the way, this woman really likes Moses, right? And she knows the story that God says, when Moses says, who should I say sent me? Tell them I am. Okay. She knows the story. She's only got to know 5 books of the Bible. And she's only got to know Moses as the prophet and the Messiah, the Christ as the new one. And so here's how this next verse reads in the Greek. So she says, remember this, I know the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he'll tell us all these things. Moses told me so. And Jesus said to her, I am who speak. It's the first and last time Jesus displays his divinity before the passion and the crucifixion. And he does it to the most immoral woman of the immoral people that are despised by the Jews. If Jesus goes to that one woman to tell her that he's the Messiah, don't you think coming to you is really easy? And don't you think that whatever wrath is to you, probably worth leaving and coming to this Messiah? He says, I am who speak. Just then the disciples came back. They marveled, why are you with this woman? Verse 28, she receives this rest. Because here's what she does. Her physical burden was in water in the jar. And in verse 28, the Bible says, the woman left her jar. She forgot about the one thing she was concerned about. You ever lose your car, forget your car keys, you go to your car to start it or whatever, and you don't have them? It's usually because you had something else in your mind that consumed your mind, and car keys didn't matter anymore. And you got mad and you started yelling when you didn't have car keys. Or one time I was going on a date with my wife, and I had my dog at my parents' house, and I forgot my dog. I forgot my dog because I couldn't wait to be with my wife. Dog, whatever. I'll go get the dog later. You see, she leaves the jar because her mind is blown by the Messiah. And she leaves her jar because her physical burdens don't matter anymore. Because Jesus says, I'm better than that. And none of those will satisfy you. And then look what she does. Don't miss it. She went away into the town and said to the people. Who has she avoided this whole time? The people. And now she's running to them. She's not running from them. So what must have changed from her relational burden of earlier? It's gone. She doesn't care if those people think she's an adulteress, if she's all this stuff. You know why? Because the God-man just said she's worthy. The God-man just says, I love you. I'll offer you the living water. Do you think she cares what those other people think anymore? No, she does not. Why? Because now she has something nobody else has, even though she still has the scarlet letter. She has these things. And so she goes, and she's going to those people, and then she's going to be relieved of her greatest need, her spiritual burden. She says this, come see a man who told me all I ever did. Would you guys come meet this Messiah? He told me about all my husbands, Billy and Frankie and Jesse. He told me about all my husbands. He knows what I've done. And he came for me. Would you come meet him? Come and see. Can this be the Tahib? Can this be the true Messiah? You see, because this is what the gospel is. You and I are the woman at the well, the most immoral of the immoral people. And the God-man comes for you and I, divinely for us, when we didn't even know to seek him. You didn't find Jesus. She didn't find him. He found her. When did he find her? In the moment of her deepest sin. Just like he found Matthew, just like he found you. But she had to be relieved and realize a few things. That the physical things of this world, or the relationships she would gain, or the religious efforts she would make, would not relieve an ultimate burden she had. The ultimate burden she had is she was a nobody destined for nothing with no identity at all. And in a moment, Christ offers it all when he says, I am who speak. Put away your wrath, lady. Leave your jar at the well. You don't need it anymore. Because you've found it all in me. Sometimes we all just need a simple reminder from a text that is a great evangelistic text, from a text that we could go into about the different religions, but a text that in its simplicity we go, we're a lot like her. So I just want you to consider one thing. It's all I asked you to do tonight is, what's your wrath? And I'm serious. Like, what is it? What is the one thing you look to relieve your burdens that's not Christ? And if you're an unbeliever, man, you've got to know him first. He's not a genie. It doesn't work that way. If you are a believer, you're not exempt from this. We slide back into that. And how are you going to go through a life that guy created, because he's God, without the Creator, God, in your life? How are you going to do that? What, are you going to get a car that's fast enough? What are you going to do? Jesus, this is why he says this, and I'll pray. He says this in Matthew 11:28. Jesus says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and I'm lowly in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Leave your jar at the well. Leave your jar there. It won't find you anything you're looking for, but Christ will. So, Father, Lord, there's a real simple thought here. Not even really a lesson or a theological point, but just a thought. There's a thought semi-hidden in this text that this woman is just like us. And we are so burdened by this world. And it's, as you know, broken down here. And Lord, I confess, Lord, I daily slide into looking to answers and comfort from something the world might have, or I might work hard enough for, or an image I might have to keep up. But Lord, I am so sorry that I pick up wrath and I think he can do something, and then I'm just weeping in the arms of the Father all over again. And Lord, I do it more than once. And Lord, I'm so sorry that I just think this jar in my life can bring satisfaction. Lord, I know that only you can, but there's something in me that desires the world to relieve my burdens, and I can't do that anymore. And Lord, my friends here, Lord, I know they're the same way because we're fallen all the same, and I know the answer. But Lord, I'm a lot like the woman. I distract the conversation into some heady thought or whatever it is. But I just pray for the next few minutes and even the rest of our lives, but specifically the next few minutes, you would burden our hearts with what the wrath or the jar is in our life that we turn to that's not you, to relieve a burden that only you can relieve. So Lord, would you change us in our seats through the power of your gospel and your Spirit. Amen.
We're going to have this verse on the screen for just a couple more seconds or a minute or so. And so we should ask that you would